Booz Allen is delivering mission-ready solutions, AI-powered, software-defined, and commercial-first. Combining deep mission experience with commercial partnerships, Booz Allen is defining a new defense industrial base, a network that crosses traditional boundaries to scale non-traditional technologies and brings our best tech to the hands of the warfighter faster, effectively delivering technology for today and tomorrow. Booz Allen, accelerating outcomes for today's warfighters.
Welcome to the Emerging Tech Horizons podcast. I'm Dr. Mark Lewis. My day job is President and CEO of the Purdue Applied Research Institute, but I'm here as the founding executive director of NDIA's Emerging Technologies Institute, a job that I handed off to the amazing Arun Seraphin, who's now leading the institute. We are at the Emerging Technologies Conference that NDIA is hosting as we speak in the Washington Convention Center. It's conference just started today. It's already been an amazing event. We've had some tremendous speakers, some sessions, wonderful industry participation. But now it is my incredible pleasure to have a conversation with our guest, Mr. James Appathurai, who is the interim managing director of NATO's DIANA. DIANA is an intriguing organization, leading in S&T. We're going to learn about that. We're going to learn about James's background, what led him to this position, and we'll talk about some S&T issues that both the United States and our NATO allies are addressing, hopefully jointly. So, James, first, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. It's a real privilege.
Let me start out. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us your background and how you got to where you are.
So it's not that interesting, but just to answer it, so I'm Canadian, as you may or may not hear from this accent. Started in the Defense Department in Canada, mostly on UN peacekeeping. But then I've been at NATO for 27 years, so a long time.
You started when you were 5.
Yes,
right? Yeah,
exactly. And I had a career there as a spokesman and speechwriter and Deputy Assistant Secretary General, as we call it, for very traditional diplomacy. Political affairs and security policy, but for the last 4 years, I've been Deputy Assistant Secretary General for Innovation, for hybrid warfare and cyber, but with a very strong focus on innovation. And innovation has now become a central theme in NATO. It wasn't 4 years ago, it is now. The last summit that we had in Brussels, President Trump attended along with the other leaders, really enshrine that and put some new policies in place. And a few months ago, I was privileged to be asked to take up the role of managing director for a certain period of, as you said, DIANA.
So perfect lead-in. Can you tell us about DIANA?
What's DIANA?
What's DIANA all about?
So if you're American, I would say a little bit of a sort of love child of DIU and DARPA, but maybe moving away from the acronyms. What DIANA does is we send out challenges to the innovation ecosystem, startups and scale-ups. And these challenges aim to solve problems that NATO or NATO countries have. Like, we need to be able to see better underwater. We need to be able to navigate in an environment where GPS and communications are jammed. And we need to do it quickly and at cost. And we then take the applications from startups or scale-ups that can meet these challenges, test them operationally, but also support them and guide them and put them in touch with end users. And at the end, provide funding to a substantial number of startups and try to help them get either contracts or to work with big primes, or to get funding. But the ultimate aim is to get innovative technology at speed into the hands of warfighters to address immediate security challenges.
Now, do you work with industry partners across all the NATO countries? Do you reach further beyond to non-NATO countries? Who do you interact with?
So in general, it's the 32 NATO countries. They're all participating, and we invest in their companies. I would just make one small addition, which is Ukraine. So we can't invest in Ukrainian territory. But if there are Ukrainian companies that are domiciled in NATO countries, then we can. And for two reasons, we do. One is, I think everybody can see, for very unfortunate reasons, Ukraine is a crucible for innovation and a testing site. So we want to be able to access that and support it. But secondly, because we want to support Ukraine and its defense. So for both of these reasons, we make a little bit of an adjustment when it comes to them.
Understood. So I have a good friend who likes to say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with friends.
Right.
And so, and that theme, going with friends, tell me a little bit about relationship with the Department of Defense in the United States and maybe U.S. industry in particular.
So I'd say three things. One is, just to zoom out for a second before coming to the U.S., I really believe in what you just said. And I think actually that's been one of the challenges that the innovation world has had in defense. Every NATO country, and NATO now, has set up structures to promote innovation. But they're a little bit separate from the main body of acquisition and procurement, which is generally too slow. And so one of the challenges we have to meet is to move the way in which these innovation structures work into the mainstream. So it's not just off to the side. So that's what we're trying to do in NATO. We can talk about it more if you want. But I'd say two things. One is the U.S. Department of Defense and various elements of the U.S. ecosystem, military and defense ecosystem, participate in helping us define what the challenges are that we issue to the innovation community. Representatives, for example, from DIU, but also from the Department of Defense, participate in the down select process from the 3,600 startups to the 150 that we're going to work with. And a number of U.S. companies that have participated already in the 3 years that Diana's been stood up have actually successfully made it through the process, and that have now been either successful in getting contracts, or they're now in our operational exercises, or they've been acquired by a prime, and sometimes all of those three things. So I think there's been real success for U.S. companies, and I have a long list. Final point I'd make is we're just now looking at, I mentioned 3,600 companies. That's the number of companies that applied to meet our latest set of challenges. The U.S. has the second highest number of countries applying, and they will have the second highest number, I think, of countries moving their way through successfully to phase one, and then we'll see about phase two. So the U.S. has been successful and is getting results.
Excellent. I would often point out, I mean, the U.S. is still the largest investor in S&T, but of course, China is moving up really quickly. And to people who worry about that, I'll point out, yes, China's moving up quickly. But if you take the U.S. and then look at the next 6 countries after China, they're all our closest friends and allies. And you add that together to the U.S. investments, and it swamps anything that China can do. It's, friends, partners, and allies.
Absolutely. But this is where NATO comes in, because what's important is that there is interoperability, that our innovations work when allies fight together. So it's great to have a drone. But what we see in Ukraine, for example, is that the Ukrainians are dropping a lot of their own drones. And the reason they're doing it is because of electronic warfare, right? They're jamming drones because they're afraid of what the Russians are sending. But because they have so many systems that are being provided or developed at speed for reasons which we all understand. I'm not criticizing the Ukrainians at all. But we can't have a situation in which the innovations that the US, for example, acquires for itself are incompatible with, not interoperable with allies, because then the US is unable to fight with its allies.
Sometimes the US systems are incompatible with each other. So
yes, and we see that too. But what NATO is a standardization agency. It's a backbone, a digital backbone. And for example, in my old job, I participated in a very recent operation where we have put about 60 drones into the water in the Baltic Sea to be able to see what the Russians are up to. And we're building a sensor stack from space to seabed, satellites, drones in the air, drones on the water, drones underwater, etc. The point I'm getting at is we have a whole number of countries that are putting their own assets into this. And NATO built the backbone. It's going through our Supreme Allied Command in Europe, EUCOM Commander, Secure. So what we can do is set the standard and build the backbone.
Mhm.
And we want to make sure that that happens across the board on innovation. And so NATO's Task Force X, that's what this
Right.
is a good example of how we can do that. And the US is very much a part of it.
Fantastic. So you've talked about a couple of technologies, drones, for example. Can you talk about some of the other technologies that you're focused on, investing in?
Sure. Well, let me give you a couple of examples still around this Baltic Sea effort, because I think it's useful also to show that these things pay off.
Right.
So a couple of years ago, Diana, is before me, so I'm not taking credit for it, invested in many companies, but I'll give two. One's called Lobster, and it is a company that builds, amongst other things, sonars and towed arrays for seeing underwater. Second is another company, I won't name them just in case they don't want to be named, but they build technology for position navigation.
Can you tell us what it rhymes with? No, I'm kidding.
It's got quantum.
Okay, all right, got it.
But yeah, they do position navigation and timing using quantum technologies. And the point of that is it can't be jammed. Doesn't need GPS, doesn't need comms.
Right.
So when we deployed these drones into the Baltic Sea, and they're there right now, we went back to these companies and said, can you make me 60 boxes, sit on top of this drone, that'll allow these drones to operate even if the Russians jam them. Right. And we've got them out there. So here are two concrete examples of innovations which make a difference now.
I love that example. I personally spent a lot of time in the Pentagon contemplating how do we operate in GPS-denied environments. And quantum sensors and PNT is a phenomenal answer. And the fact that you're implementing it says a lot about your organization.
Well, I went to visit a company that's providing a lot of support to the Ukrainians right now. Again, I just don't want to name them in case it's a problem for them, but I put on the goggles and watched as they were sending drones in to the front. And they get to a certain point, and it all goes black. I believe, considering, it's just me talking now, but considering the evolution of what we're seeing, not just on the battlefield, but in terms of electronic warfare and the evolution of investment in this area, we need to prepare for the beginning of the end of the GPS warfighting days. We had a nice long run, but we cannot, in my view, rely on a future in which GPS will be available to us for precision-guided activities, for drones, for basic logistics and transport. We need to start thinking about, not just think about, preparing for the GPS and comms denied fight.
Yeah, I agree completely. A number of years ago, I was involved in a study that the Air Force did, which we called A Day Without Space. And it was,
right, I know it.
Yeah, and we found some really interesting. We had some amazing results, and of course, it postulated losing all space assets, which is a little bit of but still, it showed our vulnerabilities. And one of the things that really struck me, we were talking at the time, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force, when we interviewed him, he said, okay, here's what a day without space would be like. Go rent a copy of the movie Saving Private Ryan, where you have no idea where your enemy is. You have no idea where your own troops are. You have no situation. That's what it would be like. And so the fact that you're tackling this problem is absolutely essential.
Well, I think we all are. And NATO runs an exercise every year also, which is that you have no electronics. Here's your sextant. Well, because that might happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, a number of years ago, I was on a Navy ship, and there was a period of time when they stopped teaching celestial navigation at the Naval Academy, and they started teaching it again. But I remember being on the ship. There was one person on board the ship who could use a sextant at the time.
It always works.
And he was an exchange officer from the UK. So I think we fixed that problem.
Good.
But excellent. So hey, we are at the Emerging Technologies Conference. So I wanted to ask you, we're a little bit early in the conference, but what have you seen anything so far that piques your interest?
Well, actually, what has interested me most so far, but I only arrived this morning, is the hackathon. I'm a big believer in hackathons. For a variety of reasons. And, most people think that means hacking your computer. That's not what that means. It means hacking away at a problem. The reason I think they're so important is first because they run the way innovation runs, which is iterative. And it is really valuable to do what the conference is doing here, which is integrating military leaders into this process. And I say that because NATO is now opening innovation ranges. It's one of the things I promoted in the run-up to the summit, and is now in our Rapid Adoption Action Plan. 10 countries signed up to offer these ranges to NATO. And I mean, you know this very well. Normally when primes come to demonstrate technologies, it works or it doesn't work. You get the contract or you don't. That's not the way startups and scale-ups work now.
Right.
It's not going to work the first time. You have to work with the end user and fail repeatedly, deliberately to advance until at the end it works, and it works exactly the way the end user needs it. So we need to adapt the way in which military leaders think, so that, and procurement people think, so that when they are assessing a technology, they give it the runtime it needs, the data it needs, the process that it needs for innovative and emerging technologies for defense, rather than the yes, no, works, doesn't way in which we have been doing procurement. So I think these initiatives are valuable, not just for what they provide, but also who's here and sees the way they work, which is the way we need to work.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I would argue it's also, it's a two-way street. So it's the company learning also from the user, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes, I saw this in Pentagon, sometimes it's not giving them what they asked for, it's giving them what they need.
Right.
And sometimes they're asking the wrong questions. And by that connection,
they're asking for the faster horse and not the car.
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right. So let me ask, if for U.S. companies that are interested in working with your organization, what are the avenues? What are the pathways?
So I think there's a couple of things. One is, I know this sounds boring, but actually we do issue those challenges, and
it doesn't sound boring to me, by the way. It sounds actually pretty exciting.
They're exciting, and I think just get in touch with us,
Yeah.
and we'll tell you how to run that process. Second thing, one of the things I want to introduce now in this time that I'm running the place is challenges outside of those 10. Meaning, for example, we have a 400% requirement for an uplift in air defense. So what I'd like to do is issue a challenge to the innovation community to say, okay, this is the effects a Patriot can produce, but it takes 3 to 7 years to get a Patriot and all of the munitions in place.
Right.
We don't have that much time. So can you, one company or a consortium of companies, produce those effects in, let's say, 1/3 the time and 1/3 the cost? Let's race a prime to get the effects of air defense or a frigate or whatever else that we require. So keep an eye out for those as well. Then get in touch with us. We then do a lot of things for companies. And I'll give you one example, which is rapid adoption. We offer a service. So if you, a US company, young US company in this case, works with Diana, and we together help you produce a prototype that works, what we're going to offer is that NATO, as NATO, not Diana, NATO can acquire it and make it available to all 32 NATO countries. So we offer a rapid adoption service which provides market access to the 32 countries by working through Diana. So it's a real easy opportunity to get around having to work with 32 separate countries.
So, in the United States, we often talk about the valley of death, getting something off the lab bench into the hands of the end user.
Right.
I've actually argued it's not really a valley, it's a mountain, because but you come down to I assume you're also tackling that same issue at Diana, getting things into the hands of the end user.
Indeed. So I actually have always said there's two mountains or valleys. One is the initial funding, right? Problem, which, you have a prototype, but that's the end of it. And you can't get to scale because you can't get the funding.
Right.
So Diana helps with that. We also have a NATO Innovation Fund. US isn't yet participating in that, but we have our fingers crossed, and there's some discussion in Congress about that. That's the first. The second valley or mountain is exactly what you just described, which is the actual procurement part, the acquisition part. Because it's great that they develop everything and we get them to the end users, but if nobody buys it, two things happen. One is, armed forces don't get it, and the companies will become disillusioned with working with us and with defense.
Right.
So we have to bridge that. That's what the Rapid Adoption Action Plan at the summit was designed to solve. And it has all kinds of steps that allies have agreed to, President Trump has agreed to, including a political timeline of 24 months, whereby NATO countries need to be able to acquire a technology. It's much faster than we normally do, but also best practices, also steps to help NATO countries have a little bit less risk aversion when it comes to testing technologies.
Right.
The US is way ahead.
So we often think we're behind, but
I mean,
but yeah,
compared to most countries in my country, and I'm from the Defense Department.
Yeah.
If you're in procurement and you try out 8 companies, 8 products, 2 work and 6 don't work, you are not rewarded for the 2. You are punished for the 6, and I mean really punished.
Right.
So we need to get over that, and we have steps in place for all that. So we will help, and I also mentioned the Rapid Adoption Service. Companies get past that second valley of death into procurement or into acquisition by a prime, or simply to get more funding. So we have we call it a trusted capital database. We have a network of investors who are vetted, meaning they don't have Chinese money in them, for example.
Okay, good.
And then we connect the companies to the financing.
Got it. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I feel like I could talk to you all day, but we are coming to the end of our allotted time. I do want to ask you, you got a session at this conference. Could you just say a few words about what that session is all about?
I mean, the session is, and I'm glad about it, it's about how NATO sees innovation, and it has been a massive change, and about what we see as necessary to make it work, and of course, the role that Diana can play in all of this. So, you know, it's what you would expect. There is a lot of interest in AI here, and I noticed that running through the conference, and we definitely want to talk about it. The way I see AI is, of course, that it's very much an enabling technology. So talking about AI alone is only one narrow aspect of AI. It's what AI can do for you. And we have all kinds of ideas of how we're going to make that happen, including bringing it into Diana. We want not just to promote innovation, but to be innovative on our own, and we're going to be doing that.
Right. Fantastic. James, it's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating in this conference, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Real pleasure.